everything important that was in the box. The keyboard itself, pretty basic switch puller, and this USB Type-C cable. The first thing I noticed was that the body was so much heavier than the Akko and the Feker, because this one is actually made of aluminum while the others were made of plastic. And then if you look closer at the body, you'll see that these are south-facing switches, so you don't have to worry about interference with cherry profile keycaps. Also, I touched the knob a bit and it's a lot less wobbly than the knob on the Feker and the Akko. I can already tell this will be a lot more stable. Also, if you're gonna compare with the Akko, then I'm happy to see these screws here so that I can open the keyboard without having to pry it open. I've heard a lot of good things about Gateron Milky Yellows, so today we will be giving them a try. This is supposed to be 90 pieces, and I have no idea how they fit 90 switches into this tiny little box. Okay, so that's all done. I ordered 90 of these, so they actually sent me exactly 90, 82 on the keyboard and these 8 spare, so that's good. I only actually had to nudge the pins back straight on a couple of these switches. I expected worse based on the crappy packaging, but I guess the handling was pretty good, so all in all, it's not bad. Now we can test. Okay, so before we start with the sound test, I want to point out that these switches have not been broken in yet, so they're typical of newly lubed switches. Some of them don't feel great, but that's normal. You have to break in your switches after lubing. But I noticed that the shift key is, I think this is over lubed. You can see how it's really sluggish coming back up after you press it, so I'm just gonna replace the switch. If you didn't have any replacement switches, you could actually just open up this switch and maybe take a Q-tip and wipe away some of the lube from inside the switch, but since I have 8 extra switches, I'm just gonna replace it for now. Yeah, that's better. So one thing about the GMMK Pro is that this button right here is by default a print screen button. On other keyboards, on other 75% keyboards, it's already the delete button, but on the GMMK Pro it's print screen, so I wanted to remap the key binding. So it's a good opportunity to install the software. It's called Glorious Core. And here you can change a lot of settings actually, but so the main one is the print screen. You have to click the button, and then here on the sidebar you just highlight delete. I already set it, but you click save, and then it's actually flashed onto the onboard memory of the keyboard. So even if you use the keyboard on another computer, the button mapping will still be delete, which is really nice. There are a lot of other settings you can change here, like the lighting, I guess polling rate, but the big one is the key binding. The other ones are nice to have. And I like the software. It's similar to Logitech G Hub or Razer Synapse, but I've found that it has even more options, which is nice. Last thing I want to capture about the GMMK Pro is its RGB. As you can see here, I actually think it's not as fluid as the RGB on the Akko, and it's not as bright as the RGB on the Feker. So I think that there have definitely been advances made in like what you can call the RGB technology in keyboards since the GMMK Pro came out. But it's nice. I like how it has this side RGBs, although it's not as good as the Akko, but it's still quite nice. And if you're really into RGBs, you can also control the pattern of the lights from the Glorious Core software. So what's our final verdict on the GMMK Pro? First of all, we have to talk about the price. It costs just about triple the price of the Feker IK75 Pro and the Akko 5075S. It's not as flexible as the Feker. It's just a wired keyboard, same as the Akko 5075S, so you don't have Bluetooth and you don't have Wi-Fi. So functionality wise, it's exactly the same as the 5075S. So how do you justify the price? Well, obviously the aluminum case is much more expensive to fabricate than plastic, and this thing is pure aluminum and very heavy. Aesthetically, I also think it's prettier than either of the other two keyboards. You have this nice glorious stencil here on the back. Build wise, I think it's also better. I like its knob more than the other two. It's missing some features though. For example, you don't have any risers here at the back, so you're pretty much stuck with this angle unless you're willing to maybe take a piece of paper and stick it on the back for additional tilt. But if you like it flatter, you're just out of luck. It also doesn't have Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, which is one of the things that makes the Feker so flexible. When it comes to the stabilizers, I actually think this has the best stabilizers of the three for all of the buttons. I've read some bad reviews online about the stabilizers on the GMMK Pro, but honestly I think they're not too bad, and I don't think I would spend any extra money to replace them with third-party stabilizers. I haven't opened this keyboard yet, but just looking at how the two parts of the casing are screwed together, it's probably much easier to mod than the Akko. Maybe the same as the Feker if you're just looking for basic mods. I also really like that it has south-facing RGBs, so you just don't have to even think about interference at all. In terms of RGB, it's not as bright as the Feker IK75, and it's also not as pretty as the Akko. So I would actually say that this keyboard has the worst RGBs out of the 375%ers that I have. In terms of software, the other two don't have software, so this is actually head and shoulders above them in that department. Okay, so that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got value from this video, please consider liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. It would really help me to continue to make videos for this channel, and it's very encouraging when you get interaction on YouTube. I have some big plans for this keyboard. Next week I'm expecting a set of PBT resonance keycaps, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you then.